Hello, welcome to another Tonalist landscape oil painting demonstration with your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy. And the painting I'm bringing you today is a redo, and I did this back in 2013, I think in September or so. There was also a larger version. So what you're looking at right now is the finished 2013 painting. It's not a bad little painting. I actually quite liked it, but it sat around for a while, and so I grabbed it and I thought, Now you might notice too, I used to sign the work back then. I found that very distracting, and in spite of some pressures maybe from, well, people like signatures. But I always sign them on the back. And yeah, now when it gets to bigger paintings, I have no problem with the signature because it's not distracting them. And it's too distracting at this scale. And one of the reasons that I make little landscape paintings is because I want to create a scene that people can kind of go into. So what I did here, this is, of course, it's extreme glazing. What I've just done is hit it with, and you'll pardon me if I'm not pronouncing the name of the red correctly. It's something like Perylene Red from Gamblin. I know I always get that wrong, but just go to Gamblin. They have a great website, actually, a lot of information about each pigment. Um, and you'll find it there, or you'll find something very close. It's kind of like a cadmium red, but it's very transparent and it's non-toxic. So I use it really for things like this, like extreme glazing, or if I have a red in the landscape, usually it'd be the sky, where I want a real bright red that's not an earthy red. For 90% of the things I'm doing in the actual land itself, I would be using a probably burnt sienna as my main red, And some people don't really even think of burnt sienna as a red. Ah, here comes our little scroll. Please like and comment and share this video. If you like my channel, if you like my videos, this helps me out a lot because this is the only way that new people will find out about this channel and all the wonderments that I have to offer. we have a we have a small we have the best group of painting subscribers on YouTube. I know you guys are totally discriminating, and I'm not overly concerned with growing the channel to huge proportions. But hey, uh, basically, by the way, I did some math the other day, and I thought, man, maybe I make a penny a view. I don't even make a penny a view. I make 0.003 cents per a view. So maybe I actually had my first check from Google last year, and it only took 2 years to get a check, enough for a check. So yeah, I'm not really making a bank. Actually, if I was making like 3 cents a video, I would be like several $100s every month. That's how many views I have. But I don't know what you got to do. It's kind of a crazy setup. That said, I'm totally thankful that there's a place like YouTube where people can come and look at my work. And yeah, I've played around with other channels and things. For a while, I was putting things up on BitChute, and I'm not crazy about a lot of the policies of, let's just say, the big G. But whatever, that's their karma. They'll work it out. Meanwhile, I'm here sharing with you, and that's how I like it. And if you like it, please share my video. Please like, comment. And also, this painting will be in my store. So that's one of the reasons I thought, I was going to do a new one. I have it I did my archive version. I was thinking, no, I really got to get some of this, some of these things in this redo folder are starting to get pretty backwards. So, and I'd like to get them up in the store. This one I'm actually quite fond of. It has a real great glow to it. So what do? We basically, this is my technique on the extreme glazing. I kind of get lost. I kind of go, holy cow, wow, did that change everything or what? And it really did. If you compare it with the painting as it was that we saw at the beginning of the video to where we are now, we're like a whole different realm, and we're in a tonalist realm, and that's groovy. However, being as I'm a little lost, I start thinking of ways that I can make things work, and a lot of times that enterprise is very much distinguished by me not really knowing what I'm doing, which feels great. It's pretty exciting, to be honest, and a heck of a lot different than, say, having a reference photo in front of you and just doing your best to realize it in a tonalist way. You know, this is, well, first of all, you can produce, as I've already indicated in the past when talking about extreme glazing, it's pretty much instant tonalism when you do a glazing like this. And also, really, they didn't have a color like perylene or perylene red in the 1800s when tonalism was really going gangbusters. They didn't. They had some alizarin crimson, which back then wasn't actually terribly permanent. That's a good glazing color too. It's very cool though, where the perylene has like this warmth to it. But I have seen effects like this done in toneless paintings by the great old guys, and they would just have to go about it in different ways. They didn't have the advantage of some of the modern pigments we have now. And many people aren't aware that it was the onset of the modern pigments that was responsible for um, movements like tonalism and impressionism. Very much so impressionism, which is usually much brighter in key. Uh, anyway, so what am I thinking? I'm thinking, well, I like, there was no purple in the original, but now everything's toned with the red. The blues kind of take on a purple cast, so you saw me kind of supporting that with a little bit of purple. That would have been the dioxine purple from Gamblin, which I think is a remarkably great color. It's a great color for glazing too. You've seen me use that before in previous videos. Another thing you kind of see me doing is pecking away at the edge of this tree. And you might have seen me making a hand gesture early on, and that was probably me explaining to someone in my studio what I didn't like. And I didn't like how round the tree was. It wasn't quite a lollipop tree, but it was just too round. It just was distracting to me, so I've added a bit of an angle there, and I think it's better for it. Yeah, I'll be doing a little work in the tree too coming up, I'm sure. The main thing, actually, we can see two passes going on here. First pass is just kind of like, wow, okay, we're into the reds. We're into the reds now, and everything's keying off a red. So things that were green are now some sort of green that's been modified with red, like that tree. You also notice how I made the whole bottom dark, and I think that dramatically improved this painting. In fact, if anything, it's the thing that made this painting really exciting, is having this bar of bright lit grass now, which before we just had a bunch of blah. So you saw in the last painting we did, I think it's the last one, it's that square one we did, um, where I'd actually done the darkened foreground. But you can see this is like one of my main strategies when I'm doing redos, is like, how can I, especially something like this, it was like boring blah grass. And there's so many scenes like that out here in New Zealand because the primary industry out here is finding ways to make money off of grass, which usually involves livestock. I think I feel pretty safe saying it always involves livestock. On the plus side, our little cows and sheep out here, they have a nice life. They live pretty well. Um, it's beautiful place to live, and a beautiful. If I was a cow, I wouldn't mind grazing around on some of these beautiful hills and stuff before they marched me off to my inevitable doom. Anyway, not to bring you down, but so we're looking at coming to the close of our first pass right now, and I'll let it dry for a few days. Hit it with a coat of liquid, and then I'm going to pop it back up on the easel again, and there we are. We're back on the easel, and you can see Now the lighting changes, and someone actually helpfully pointed out on my channel that there's a bit of a flickering which is occurring from autofocus, but I haven't done any painting at all since then, since my whole studio situation's been in upheaval. And but I do intend when I get set up to try that, just do a manual focus and see. I don't find it that distracting, but I do know what they're talking about, and that's a good tip. And I always appreciate helpful suggestions. Yeah, I'm not so into people just being critical or rude. But if you have a helpful suggestion for me ever, please just lay it on me. If I can, I'll take it on board. Yeah, because we can. God knows we can all improve. So, what am I going to do to this? Well, knowing me, I'm gonna bolster that bit right up against the tree. I'm probably going to go into a lighter creamy tone. I'm guessing though because I don't have the actual original in front of me, and I spent a while today trying to find a video of the original painting session. But that was done in 2013. That was prior to me doing any videotaping of my work at all. Oh yeah, what do you know? First thing I do, just bolster that up, and isn't that yummy? Wow, this painting looks glorious, I have to say. It's no wonder I don't like criticism. No, trust me, I'm my own worst critic. I can definitely see problems with my work. And I read a great quote. Maybe some of you wouldn't be aware, but I really was a fan of comics, especially when I was a kid. And one of the greats when I was a kid was Neil Adams. And someone I was been watching a series on YouTube I highly recommend called Comic Tropes. And if you have any interest in comics at all, this guy's great. Um, anyway, he was in there. It was this wasn't even Comic Tropes, to be honest. It was just someone interviewing Neil Adams. Hold on, I gotta let the cat out here. Yeah, keep the door closed so we won't be disturbed. Uh, Neil Adams was asked a question about style, and he's famous for having this like kind of realistic style. That's a bit funky too, really. And he says, "Well, style is just the things you do wrong." Style is just the things you do wrong. Sorry, I started laughing there at the end. He says, if you were doing everything right, it looked just like a photograph. I would argue that that looks wrong too. That's a terrible style to have, where your work is indistinguishable from a photo. So what am I doing here in the tree? Well, it's green, but probably almost zero actual green pigment in there. It would be a little yellow, some black to make the mic green, and then I think I'm probably chucking a ton of alizarin crimson in there and burnt sienna, and you'd be amazed how much you can use a color like burnt sienna in place of a green in your landscape. Highly recommend trying that out. And yeah, so I do have some greens, but they're very warm and they're kind of keyed off what's going on. Everything's sort of functioning in a narrow portion of the spectrum. By the way, this painting is only sped up like by double or three times. So those of you that were interested in more real-time sort of approaches, you're looking at one here. Yeah, that's not terribly sped up. And I tell you, paintings at real time, I can't stand watching paintings. Pardon me. I just hit the microphone there. Paintings at real time. I watch when if I'm reviewing my work. I always do it at three times speed. Um, Real time is just like watching paint dry, literally. Anyway, hopefully you are digging this and getting something from it, and you can see how I turned a sort of boring painting into it was tonal, but not this tonal, you know. Turned into something exciting that when I look at it, I go, "That's exciting. That is stimulating." And oh, speaking of, I got one more minute left. I am moving studios. I'm no longer at the Quarry Arts Center. I'm moving into a place called Cowboy Junkies, which is an antique shop here in Fongaray, and the proprietor there is being kind enough to let me use a room in his building to paint in. So if you're in Fongaray, that's where you want to look me up, because I'm not at the quarry anymore. I've been moving out, and that's one of the reasons this video will be a little late, but it will get up. It'll get up, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. And I'll be back with another video real soon. I have a box of things to photograph, which I've got to get to. There'll be a few past masters in there and some other real goodies. So until I see you again with another video, do me a favor. Take good care of yourself, your family, your loved ones. Hell, if you can, say a prayer for your enemies too. Just put good stuff out. And if you're painting, go do a painting. Turn off this video and get up and go do something. Anyway, till I see you again real soon, take good care and stay out of trouble.